Greetings, dear viewers. This is the CrossMoto channel. You can find various engine layouts on motorcycles, inline, V-shaped, boxer, and so on. In this episode, I want to tell you about the only motorcycle in the world that was equipped with a power unit with a completely exotic layout. Let me introduce you to a motorcycle with an H-shaped engine. It's called the Brough Superior Golden Dream. There is a type of engine called the H-shaped engine. Yes, this kind of configuration is not as well known or popular as the previously mentioned inline engines, V engines, and others. However, H-shaped engines have occasionally been used in machinery. What exactly is this kind of engine? To put it simply, an H-shaped engine is a piston engine made up of two combined V-twin engines with a cylinder bank angle of 180 degrees each, with its own separate crankshaft, which then transmit the torque. Some might argue that basically it's just two boxer engines stitched together. But no, that's not quite right. It's actually a V-twin with a 180-degree cylinder bank angle. Here's an animation to show it. The top is a boxer engine, the bottom is a V-twin. Now watch the animation of the H-shaped engine. The layout's name naturally relates to the engine's shape. The golden age of these engines was the 1930s and 1940s of the last century, and they became widespread in piston aviation. Such engines were manufactured by Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce, Fairey Aviation, and other leading aviation companies. Once, such an engine was installed on a car. It was the Lotus 43 racing car, equipped with an H16 engine from British Racing Motors, which won the 1966 United States Grand Prix. Such an engine was also used for the BRM P80 racing car. And once such an engine was installed on a motorcycle. Let's take a closer look at this interesting machine. George Brough from Nottingham is truly a legendary figure in motorcycle engineering, both in Britain and worldwide. He was a talented engineer and motorcycle racer, and using his considerable experience, he created excellent motorcycles. In addition, he had an exceptional talent for business. Brough consistently predicted the preferences of Britain's upper classes with great accuracy. That's why his seemingly narrowly focused, niche, and rather expensive product always found a buyer. George is the creator of such wonderful motorcycle models as the Brough Superior, SS80, SS100, and Austin 4. The Brough Superior Golden Dream is also on the list of masterpieces created by the talented engineer. George believed that the most balanced engine for a motorcycle would be a four-cylinder one. As early as 1920, Brough installed an experimental air-cooled V-shaped 1-liter four-cylinder engine on a motorcycle. A year later, the company introduced another experimental four-cylinder motorcycle, this time with an inline 816 cc side valve air-cooled engine, which was developed in collaboration with the Swiss company MAG. In 1931, an 800cc four-cylinder with an Austin engine followed. But these engines didn't quite satisfy the engineer's ambitions in their pursuit of perfection. In 1937, work began on a motorcycle with a completely exotic engine. And here, connections with aviators played a role as well. The idea for the engine came from Captain Jack Politorp, who worked with seaplanes, and this fact would only become known in 1956. The idea was presented to Brough, and the first engine prototype was manufactured by Chelan Motors, the same company that built Politrop's seaplanes. The H4 engine design turned out to be complex but extremely well balanced, quite compact and well cooled. The connecting rods were of the fork and blade type, yes, just like on a Harley-Davidson, and thus shared a common crank pin. All the pistons moved synchronously, which provided perfect balance. The primary, secondary, and higher-order sources of vibration compensated for each other, and the two crankshafts, which rotated in opposite directions, eliminated the reactive torque that occurs in boxer engines. Initially, the engine had a square bore-to-stroke ratio of 68 by 68 millimeters. Accordingly, its displacement was 988 cubic centimeters. The lower camshafts were gear-driven. Later, the concept was slightly revised. The dimensions changed to 71 by 63 millimeters. The camshafts began to be driven by a chain, and the total displacement was 998 cubic centimeters. And this exact version of the engine is shown in this diagram. The lubrication system was designed with a dry sump. The engine was optionally paired with a 3- or 4-speed gearbox, from which the power was transmitted to the rear wheel by a drive shaft that was hidden in a chrome casing. Otherwise, apart from the engine, it was a fairly typical design for those years. A duplex frame, drum brakes on both wheels, a Springer fork at the front, and the rigid rear suspension was replaced with a plunger suspension for comfort. As for the power, torque, and so on, these figures are unknown, and not because I'm lazy and didn't look for information, but because Brough Superior, like Rolls-Royce, never officially released the power figures for their motorcycle engines. George Brough's creation made its debut before the general public at Earl's Court in London and caused a sensation. The Golden Dream was priced at £185, and in gold, it was £195. These numbers don't mean much, so if you convert them to today's dollars, it comes out to around $1,517,000. By 1939, the number of motorcycles produced had already reached 5. This machine was Brough's final attempt to create another flawless motorcycle, but subsequent tests revealed many initial issues that were never resolved before the start of World War II. The war itself forced changes in motorcycle production. Brough Superior stopped producing motorcycles and started manufacturing precision equipment for the aviation industry. The company remained loyal to this industry even after the war, and Brough Superior motorcycles became one of the greatest legends in motorcycle history. Out of the 5 units, 3 have survived to this day. At least one of them belongs to John Wallace, the chairman of the Brough Superior Club in Nottingham. Another motorcycle was displayed at the British National Motorcycle Museum. It was damaged during a fire in 2003 at that very museum, but was later restored. By the way, something funny happened with this one. When the restorers opened up the engine, it turned out that the internal parts were missing. That was the Golden Dream of George Brough, the only motorcycle in human history with an H-shaped engine. This episode is coming to an end. Thank you very much for your attention. You can support my work by being active on the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, share the story with your friends. You've been watching CrossMoto. See you next time.